Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, the Force is with the readers, and we return to 1981 for a special issue of the Marvel series. I'm your host, Nathan P. Butler, and in June of 1981, we saw the printing of Star Wars number 50. As a 50th issue, it got a special format where it's a much longer story than we are used to. It is issue 50, it says, a supersized Star Wars saga, giant 50th collector's issue. And you notice there, Han and Chewbacca are in the background, Lando is in the foreground. This is one of those few times we're going to see a story in the era between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi from the Marvel stuff that will feature Han Solo. It's the first time he's been actually in the series as himself rather than a block of carbonite or being talked about since The Empire Strikes Back storyline. It's not only available here though. If you were one of those who picked up that Prestige format series, Classic Star Wars a long time ago when they did the black and white stuff to try to see whether or not there's enough interest in the Marvel series to reprint it, this also appeared in our frequently referenced Classic Star Wars a long time ago, Volume 2. We have now finished this issue. This is the one that had Whatever Happened to Jabba the Hutt, done. Riders in the Void, done. The Last Jedi, number 49, the last issue, done. Now it goes straight to the next issue, number 50, The Crimson Forever. So this one, totally finished up now in the reprints of the Marvel stuff. Nowadays, you're more likely to see this, though, in the pages of Star Wars Omnibus a long time ago, Volume 3. Yes, we finally jumped to Volume 3. This is the first issue in this third omnibus out of 5 in the reprinting of the Marvel stuff, with recolored pages recently from Dark Horse Comics. Now, this issue, released in April of 1981, is written by Archie Goodwin, as we tend to expect in this era of the series, though he will soon be gone while he's working on the newspaper strips instead. It features art by his newspaper strip cohort, Al Williamson, for part of the story, but then also Walt Simonson, who's been an artist previously briefly on this series and will become a regular artist on the series. Now, the first part of the story is entitled The Crimson Forever, just the name that the whole storyline tends to take most of the time. In this story, you have Lando and Chewbacca out looking for Han Solo, looking for Boba Fett. Where has he taken Han? He's not yet to Tatooine. They aren't going to Tatooine just yet, because apparently they don't think Boba Fett's going to take him straight there. That was always kind of an iffy, weird thing looking back at the Marvel series and the modern EU, quite frankly, outside of Shadows of the Empire in some respects. But suffice to say, they're out looking for him, but Leia calls Lando and Chewbacca back, because Luke has been among a squadron of X-Wing pilots who find this derelict Star Destroyer, and aboard, everybody is dead. They're turned red by this thing that sort of clouds your eyes first and then turns you red eventually and you die. Okay? It's entitled The Crimson Forever. That's the name of this disease, but it's not something that is very well known. It is something that is new to the Rebel Alliance. They need to figure out what the heck is going on, only it turns out the one who has the answers is Chewbacca, though he's sort of embarrassed by the idea that he wants to tell that story, that he has to tell that story, because Han told it to Lando after promising Chewbacca he'd tell no one. Lando kind of prompts Chewbacca into explaining. So we start with this first part where Luke is infected by this disease. We don't know what's going to happen to him. Lando and Chewbacca are called back. Hey, Chewbacca, what the heck is going on? At which point the first part ends. We begin part 2, the second third of the issue. Now, the second part is entitled Rage in the Red Nebula, and this is a flashback. It's all Chewbacca telling about Han Solo and his encounter with this disease before. They were going to a planet called Terminus, and while they were on Terminus, they are blasted, and among those who are essentially kidnapped by Klisk, a man who is part of this religious minority who have been exiled from their homeworld deep in the Red Nebula, which is referred to here almost like it's outside of the galaxy. It's later been said to be just in the unknown regions, but it's this little sort of separate pocket of space where most people don't travel. Thankfully, Han is a good pilot. He can get them through the asteroid field around the Red Nebula to eventually get to Klisk's old home planet, where he intends to carry out a religious mission that everyone will be rewarded for, though his reward is not quite all it's cracked up to be, as we'll see. So what Han winds up discovering from a mystic who's there, kind of a monk who's there, is that what Klisk wants is these 2 jewels. And these jewels are kind of unique. When they are together, it's like they're life forms here. When they're together, they are harmonious. They feel the togetherness, and they sort of radiate positive energy, positive vibes that help the land around it. Basically, this planet has been bombarded by all kinds of asteroid bits from the asteroid field, but not where the people actually live, where those 2 crystals are stored. They're being protected by that positive aura. If you separate them, it's like they become sad. Yeah, I know, kind of weird. It's like they become sad and they radiate out a negative aura which kills everyone within the vicinity. It sort of sucks away the life from the people who are around it when separated. So Klisk comes, he tries to steal them, Han gets to them first, some others try to steal it from Han. Han smartly decides that he is going to fake the crystals in a bag and let Klisk just go off with them, thinking he's got them when he really doesn't. Han has managed to hide them, so he's able to keep them safe and put them back on the pedestals when he realized the devastating effects that it would have. Turns out, though, this saves Han's life, because Klisk's religious mission was not to just get these and become wealthy, even though he promised, whatever wealth you find, it's for you, those of you who are helping me, you all get to keep it. Yeah, too bad you can't take it with you when you're gone, because he waits until they're all aboard the ship, he has the crystals, he believes the crystals should be destroyed, so he flies the ship directly into the sun. It's basically a suicide mission to destroy the crystals and die alongside them. Thank goodness Han and Chewie weren't aboard. But they're not able to take the crystals with them, of course, because, well, if he does that, the planet dies, and even Han's not scoundrel enough to do that. Why did Chewbacca not want to tell the story? Well, because part of the way that Chewbacca winds up playing into the story is that when Han is near the crystals, it looks as though he's going to take them away, and this big beastly guardian shows up trying to kill him and take it, and winds up instead finding the bounty hunters or the other ruffians who come to steal them from Han because, well, it's fond of Chewbacca. Chewbacca is small enough to look like basically a baby cub to this huge guardian creature who's now going to be sad now that Chewbacca is leaving. So because of, kind of being made to look small, cute, and puny, Chewbacca didn't want the story told, but thankfully Han told Lando. Lando is now revealing the truth, and that brings us to part 3. Now, interestingly, it's the third part, entitled Against the Scarlet Knight, that connects this back to previous Marvel stories. It's actually the end cap of the Tag family storyline. We had seen Orman and seen all the other Tag family members at different points in the story, and the last time we really focused on them was to see Orman Tag die, and that Domina Tag was wanting revenge on Luke and the Rebels and such. And sure enough, here she is, back again. She has gone to the Red Nebula, she's managed to get her hands on those gems, got into a battle with some Imperials, they had found the new Rebel base on Golroth, this sort of Mustafar-looking world, and gone there to try to destroy the Rebels and Vader's Imperials in one swift stroke, as Tarkin might have said. And pretty much everybody on this House of Tag Mining Explorers ship that they have is dead, except for a few who are with her, including the bounty hunters like Dengar, Forlom, she says Zuckuss, IG-88, or some of the IG-88s are there. I believe it's C and D, although that's not a distinction made until way later when there are so many IG-88s running around. They need to create those other designations. That'll be years down the line. And, of course, there's her, who's there with them, and they wind up running into Lando and Leia and Chewbacca and the droids when they're on their way to find the Red Nebula and to find the crystals in hopes of somehow saving Luke. Only now, what you have is this sort of firefight that breaks out, till eventually the Rebels are able to strand her on her own ship with the Crimson Forever, with that virus, or not virus, but with the disease. They say virus a couple times, but it's, it's the radiation or whatever it is from those crystals, with them being separated and such, at which point she, kind of as the last chance to save her own life, Domina pretty much says, look, I know the truth about these. I know that Luke, who appears to be dead, actually isn't dead. It's like a state of extreme suspended animation, and as long as he's not fighting it, he won't die. And Luke has been having these visions in which he sees Vader and realizes it's not real and is refusing to fight. So he's not gonna die, because the Force is kind of guiding him in that. It's visions with Yoda and Obi-Wan and so forth. So what we get is, finally, she is able to reverse the effects. She brings the two together. Luke is awakened, and they let Domina Tag go as part of the deal along with her bounty hunters. Although, they hint at the fact that now that she's acted against the Empire, maybe, just maybe, the Empire would pay for Domina Tag. And those bounty hunters do appear to be interested as they're flying off on their merry little way at the end of the story. So it's kind of a cool way to see Han and Chewie back in action when Han is basically in Carbonite at this point in the overall continuity and at this point in the publishing history, at least in terms of the Marvel series going, because they are between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. But it manages to work in some other things as well, including the end of that Tag conflict. We don't really tend to see them again in the Marvel series, though they're referenced in plenty of materials many, many years down the line. So the question, of course, is this an essential read? If you've been following the Marvel series and following the Tag storyline, I think this is an essential read. It's the end of that broader conflict that began way back in some of the earliest Marvel issues. On the other hand, is this essential for the mainstream Star Wars reader? No, not these days. There's nothing really necessary about this at all. The only way it's necessary is if you've been reading the Tag storyline. If you have, it's a nice way to wrap it up with kind of an unexpected ending, with an unexpected appearance of this character in what didn't appear in the first two parts to have anything to do with her. That was kind of a nice twist going along. So, with that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the readers.